Kellera was born on the planet Avarice, a quiet, cold world where the sky was always silver and the people never smiled. In her society, emotions were not welcome. Every child was born through genetic design, made to be calm, logical, and obedient. They worked together, spoke little, and lived by one rule: harmony is survival. But Kellera was not like the others. From the moment she could speak, she asked too many questions. She wondered why clouds moved, why birds flew in circles, and why. Her parents never hugged her. While others walked in straight lines and kept their eyes down, Kellera looked up at the stars. She dreamed of other worlds and strange sounds she couldn't describe. Her teachers called her defective. Her classmates avoided her. Machines scanned her thoughts every week, trying to correct her mind. The system told her she was emotionally unstable and highly unpredictable. Her parents, though calm and polite, began to speak less and less to her. At night, Kellera would sit by her window, watching the moons rise, and wonder what was wrong with her. She was born wrong in her world. One day, while working at her assigned task cleaning, the old learning archives Kellera discovered a hidden door behind a broken shelf. Inside was a dark storage room filled with dusty equipment and metal crates. She knew she shouldn't enter. It was not part of her path. But curiosity, a feeling forbidden in avarice, pulled her forward. In one of the crates, she found something strange. A small black sphere with blinking blue lights. It looked damaged, but somehow alive. When she touched it, it lit up fully, and a sound filled the room. It wasn't a Versian. It was a deep voice, warm and strong, speaking a language she didn't know but could somehow feel. Kellera quickly hid the sphere and returned at night when no one was watching. Over the next few weeks, she studied the device. It was an ancient space probe sent from a distant planet called Earth, hundreds of years ago. The data inside was still partly working. Music played strange rhythms with laughter and sorrow. Images appeared, people dancing, arguing, celebrating, crying. She read stories about freedom, love, fear, and courage. Most of all, she heard voices, human voices. They were loud, passionate, and sometimes foolish. But they felt real, alive. Couldn't stop listening. The last message on the probe was different. A male voice, calm and hopeful, said, "If you are out there, we are here, coordinates attached. You are not alone." It wasn't just a message. It was an invitation. Kellera's heart raced. She didn't know what that feeling was, only that it made her want to leave Avarice forever. She began dreaming of Earth every night. She imagined walking on green grass, feeling the sun on her skin, and hearing real laughter. She imagined a place where being different wasn't a mistake, but Avarice would never allow that. She knew the rules. No one left. The planet was sealed. Travel was forbidden. Those who tried to escape were never heard from again. Some said they were recycled. Others said they were erased from history. Kellera had read enough forbidden data to believe both could be true. Still, something in her refused to stay. She studied old maps, stole access to the outer launch schedules, and secretly learned how to operate a small transport vessel. Her hands shook every time she moved through restricted zones. Thought of stopping, the music from Earth played again in her mind. One night, she stood under the Stardome, the largest glass ceiling in Avarice, and watched the sky. The Earth's coordinates from the probe were clear now. She had decoded them, memorized them, dreamed of them. She whispered to herself. They said, "I'm broken, but maybe. I'm just made for somewhere else." Kellera made her choice. She would escape. The night of her flight was quiet, too quiet. Her heart pounded like the drums she had heard in the Earth recordings. She moved through the city's shadows like a ghost. No one noticed her, or if they did, they pretended not to. People on Avarice didn't ask questions. She reached the hangar and found the vessel she had planned for, a simple two-seater scout ship, mostly automated. It wasn't built for long trips, but with the data she had gathered, it would be enough to reach the outer relay station. From there, if everything worked, she could push beyond Avarice's control zone. She climbed in, activated the launch sequence, and held her breath. Unauthorized departure detected, a robotic voice said. Within seconds, lights flashed red across the hangar. Kalira didn't stop. She pushed the controls forward, overrode the failsafe codes, and launched into the sky. The force shook her body, and alarms rang in her ears. But above all of it, she felt something she had never known. Freedom. As the ship soared upward, she looked down at Avaris for the last time. It was beautiful and cold, perfect and lifeless, a place where she was never meant to belong. Above her, the stars waited. One of them held a blue planet with oceans, trees, people who laughed even when they were sad. Earth Kellera smiled not because she was safe, but because, for the first time, she wasn't afraid to be herself. She was born wrong in her world, but she was headed toward a world that might finally feel right. It had been almost a year since Kalira arrived on Earth. She had come from a world that punished emotions, a place where dreams were not allowed, and questions were silenced. She had run from it, not to conquer Earth, but to find freedom, to feel now. She stood on a stage in front of thousands of people. Her silver hair glowed under the soft lights. Behind her, a large screen showed pictures of the stars, her broken ship. In the forest where she had first stepped onto Earth, beside her stood Eli, calm and proud. Kalira took a deep breath and began. "I used to believe I was broken," she said. "My world told me that I was wrong because I felt too much joy. Sorrow, wonder, pain." She looked into the crowd, her voice steady. "But on Earth, I learned that feelings are not weaknesses. They are part of life. They guide people, connect them, and make them brave." The audience listened in silence, their hearts full. Kalira smiled. "I came here to survive, but Earth taught me how to live." After the speech, the world reacted with hope and warmth. The Bridge Initiative grew quickly. School scientists, artists, and dreamers joined together. The mission was clear. If there were others in the galaxy, others like Kalira, they would not be left alone. They would be welcomed. Kale Ira became the voice of the project. But she refused to be treated like a goddess. "I am not special," she always said. "I am just. See now." She traveled across countries, visiting schools, walking through cities, meeting families. People from every place, every culture, smiled when they saw her. Children drew stars for her. Teachers invited her to tell her story. She always ended her visits with the same words. "If you ever feel like you don't belong, remember maybe you are just meant to belong somewhere new." But not all was easy. Some leaders still feared her. They thought her message could cause rebellion, especially in places where people were not allowed to speak freely. One country banned her image. Another called her a trick. A few even claimed she was never real. But Kalira did not respond with anger. Instead, she sent gifts, books, messages of peace, even small seeds that could grow into earth flowers. Her only reply to hate was kindness. Eli watched her and said, "One day, you're not just healing yourself. You're helping heal us too." Kalira looked out at the stars, because now I believe in people. Then one night, a signal came. It was weak, strange, but real. It came from far away, a distant star system. It was not a voice, not words. It was a feeling, a pulse of sadness, hope. Kalira felt it in her chest. Her hands trembled as she touched the screen. "This is someone like me," she whispered. "Someone who's afraid, someone who needs a way out." Eli checked the data. Signal was coming from a cold planet called Thera 9. No one had explored it before. No signs of life were expected there, and yet the signal kept coming. Earth now faced a new question. Should they answer? Some said yes. Send kindness, as Earth had received Kalira. Others were afraid. What if it's a trap, they said. What if there are many Kaleras, but not all of them are peaceful? Clara stood before the council again. "I was once just a signal," she said, "just a strange sound from the sky. If Earth had ignored me, I would have died in space, afraid, alone." She looked at each leader with calm strength. "Let us be the world that answers. Let us be the voice that says, You are not alone. After long debate, Earth agreed. For the first time, humanity would send a peaceful mission beyond the solar system, not to take or to conquer. Lyra helped design the message. It was not full of science or threats. It was a simple beam of sounds, laughter, music, waves crashing, birds singing, and at the very end, a voice. Her voice. We hear you. We understand you. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. The message was sent. Then they waited. Weeks passed. Then a new signal returned. This time, it was stronger. A voice, broken but real. Who are you? Kalira smiled, tears in her eyes. Someone who once asked the same thing. She turned to Eli. They're ready, but scared. Eli nodded. Then we'll be gentle. A new ship was built, not for war, not for escape, but for kindness. It was named Hopebringer. Kalira wanted to go, but doctors warned her. You're still healing, they said. Your body may not survive another long flight. So she trained others, pilots, doctors, artists, people from Earth who had once felt like outsiders, people who understood pain, people who would bring peace. Before the ship launched, Kalira placed her hand on the hull. To anyone out there who feels too much, she whispered, we are coming. The ship rose into the sky, shining like a promise. Back on Earth, Kalira continued her work. She helped rewrite old education systems. She worked with children who had been called too emotional or too sensitive. She gave talks not only about stars, but about kindness, strength, and how being different is not a mistake. She and Eli grew closer. Every day they shared stories, laughter, sometimes quiet silence under the stars. One evening, as they sat watching fireflies, Eli asked, Do you miss Avarice? Kalira thought for a moment. I miss the stars, she said, but not the silence. And do you still feel broken? Kalira smiled. No, I feel whole. Not because I changed who I am, but because I finally found a place where being me is okay. Months later, a new message came. It was from THAREN-9. It was long, clear, and it ended with this. We are ready to speak. Thank you for answering. We thought no one would ever hear us. We are not afraid anymore. The room where Kalira heard it went silent. Everyone watched her. She looked up, tears in her eyes, and whispered, Humanity answered. Epilogue ears. Later, Kalira stood in a garden filled with Earth's colors, green trees, golden flowers, and soft winds. Children ran around laughing. The sky above was blue, and a statue stood in the center. It showed a figure with one hand reaching to the stars, and the other hand held to the heart at the base. It read, To the girl born wrong in her world who showed us how to be right. In ours. Kalira touched the stone and smiled. She was never meant to be a hero. She just wanted to be human. And in the end, she reminded Earth what it truly meant to be. The sky over Oregon was cloudy, but the whole world was watching. News channels showed live footage of the crash site deep in the forest. Helicopters hovered above. Drones flew around, capturing every angle. People across Earth, young and old, rich and poor, sat in front of their screens. Watching history, an alien ship had landed, and inside it was someone very special, Kalira, the girl from the stars. In a quiet hospital near the mountains, Kalira slowly opened her eyes. The lights were soft. The room was clean. A strange smell filled the air, something she would later learn was disinfectant. She turned her head and saw Eli sitting beside her, holding a warm cup of tea. His hair was messy again, in dark circles. Sat under his eyes, but his face lit up when he saw her awake. You're here, he said softly. Kalira nodded slowly. I didn't crash into the ocean? No, Eli chuckled. You missed it by a few miles. Good thing, too. You can't swim, can you? She blinked. Swim, Eli laughed harder. We'll teach you. After a few days, Kalira began walking again. Her body was still healing, and Earth's gravity felt heavier than she was used to. But she was strong, stronger than she looked. Doctors and scientists visited her every day. Some were kind, some were nervous. They took tests, asked questions. and studied her ship's wreckage. She allowed it because she had nothing to hide. But she also asked questions of her own. Why do people fight over who speaks to me first? She asked one morning. Eli sighed. That's Earth. Everyone wants to be first when something big happens. But don't worry, we're not all like that. She looked out the window and said, I want to meet people, real people, not just officials. Soon, the government arranged a public broadcast. Kalira would speak to the world. They dressed her in soft clothes, simple earth fabric, nothing too strange. Her silver hair was tied back. She stood behind a small podium. Cameras pointed at her. Lights flashed. The world waited, and then she spoke. My name is Kalira, she began, her voice clear. I came from a world where feeling was wrong, where asking questions was punished, where silence was peace, but also a prison. She paused, looking straight into the cameras. I found your old music, your stories, your voices. I didn't understand them at first. They were loud, wild, full of mistakes, but also full of hope. She smiled, just a little. Your world is not perfect, but it is alive. And in your pain I saw beauty, in your chaos I saw freedom. And in your voices, I heard something I had never known before. Choice. She looked around the room. I did not come to rule. I did not come to hurt. I came to be human. If you will have me? The world reacted with tears, cheers, and awe. Millions shared her speech. Artists painted her face. Children drew pictures of stars and wrote letters saying, Welcome, Kalira. People who had never agreed on anything before now shared one thought. She chose us. She could have gone anywhere. She chose Earth. But not everyone was happy. Some leaders feared her power. Some thought she might still be dangerous. Others believed she should be returned to her homeworld. Everest, however, had already sent a message. Return the subject. She is unstable. Her presence is a threat to balance. Kalira read it and frowned. I was not unstable, she whispered. I was just ... different. Earth faced a choice. They protect her or send her back. Eli stood before the council that gathered to decide her fate. His voice was not as smooth as a politician's, but his words were honest. She's not here to take anything. She risked her life just to be allowed to feel, to live. Isn't that what we all want? He looked at the officials. If Earth turns her away, we don't just lose her. We lose a chance to be better. Outside, people protested, but not with anger, with hope. Signs read, Let her stay. She is one of us. Born wrong there, right here. Children made songs using her name. Teachers used her story to talk about bravery and kindness. Scientists offered her safety, and artists drew stars around her. Kalira watched all of this from a window, a hand pressed to the glass. These people, she said softly, they're not afraid of broken things. Eli stood beside her. No, he said. Sometimes, broken is how light gets in. The final decision came a week later. The council voted. Kalira could stay. She would be treated not as a threat, but as a guest, a visitor from the stars, a learner, a teacher, a bridge between two worlds. When Eli told her, she didn't speak. She simply stepped outside barefoot and let the rain fall on her face for the first time. She tilted her head back and laughed, a sound avarice had never taught her. Eli watched her with quiet pride. You really are home, he said. Weeks passed. Kalira began learning about Earth. She took walks through forests. She tasted fruit. She learned to paint and read poetry. She didn't understand everything, but she felt it all. She and Eli grew closer, not just as friends, but as kindred spirits. Two souls who had both once felt out of place. One night, they sat by a campfire. Kalira looked at the flames dancing. I never saw a fire like this on Avarice. It would have been seen as wild. Dangerous. Eli poked the fire with a stick. It is dangerous, but it's also warm, beautiful, just like you. She smiled. I think your world and I have more in common than I thought. To bring change, but she shook her head. They don't listen, she said. Not yet. Maybe someday. But for now, I need to heal. On Earth is where. She helped design a new program called the Bridge Initiative. Its goal, to share knowledge between worlds. To search for other beings who, like Kalira, were lost, lonely, or silenced. This time, she said, no one will be left behind. She didn't wear a crown or sit on a throne. She sat in classrooms, forests, art rooms, wherever humans were learning and feeling. She didn't lead with orders. She led with her heart. One evening, she and Eli stood on a cliff, watching the sunset. The sky was pink and gold. Kalira spoke quietly. On Avarice, we were told the stars were cold and distant. And now, Eli asked. They still shine, she said. But now I know they shine for us too. She looked at him, her silver hair glowing in the sunlight. I was born wrong in her world, she said. Eli nodded, but exactly right for this one. And together they watched the stars rise. Space was quiet, dark, endless. Kalira sat in the small command seat of her ship, her hands trembling. The controls were slow. Sparks jumped from a broken panel. Warning lights blinked everywhere, red, orange, some she didn't even understand. The ship, had been hit by debris. One wing was damaged. The backup power was failing. Most of her systems were off to save energy. She could no longer see stars clearly. Her body ached from the impact. Still, she whispered to herself, over and over, just a little farther. She checked the last message again. Eli had sent her his exact location on Earth. She memorized the map. Even with low vision and weak systems, she kept guiding her ship using the tiny navigation screen still working. It was enough for now. Outside, nothing moved. Space was full of silence again, but she was not alone. Eli sat at his desk, eyes fixed on the screen. He hadn't slept. His hair was messy, his face tired, but he didn't care. He had received her message. Kalira was alive, but barely. Every few hours, a weak signal would reach him. Her messages were short now, cold, power low. Ship hurt. I'm still flying. I remember the music. Keep sending it. So he did. He sent old songs. Soft and slow. He sent her the sounds of rain, of birds, of people laughing. Simple things. Earth things. Things she had never heard on Avarice. And then he began speaking to her, even if she couldn't always answer. You're stronger then. You think, Kalira, you're not broken. You're just more alive than they could handle. Keep flying. Listening. He believed in her. Inside her ship, Kalira listened to Eli's voice in small bursts. Every time she heard him, her heart felt warmer. She closed her eyes and pictured Earth, a place where people felt freely, even if they didn't always agree. Where mistakes were allowed, where love and loss both had meaning. I want that, she said softly to the empty room. I want a world where feeling isn't wrong. But then the ship jolted again. A system failed with a loud pop. The cabin dimmed. The AI, voice cold and flat, spoke in her language. Warning. Oxygen level dropping. Life support critical. She coughed, gripping the seat. Her vision blurred. She knew she didn't have much time. Still she whispered, not yet. I'm not giving up. She crawled to the manual panel and pulled open a control box. Sparks burned her fingers. She winced but didn't stop. With slow hands, she reconnected wires. Using all the knowledge she had stolen from forbidden books and old data pads, the lights flickered on again. The engines hummed, weak but alive, just like her. Back on Earth, strange things were happening. Government officials had tracked the signal. Satellites above Earth caught a strange object approaching at high speed. Military teams were alerted. News channels guessed it was an alien ship. Some people panicked. Others cheered. But Eli knew the truth. She's coming, he said, and she's not dangerous. But not everyone believed him. One morning, black vehicles arrived outside his home. Men in dark uniforms stepped out. One of them approached Eli, calm but serious. You've been in contact with a non-Earth being, the man said. This is now a global security matter. We will take over. Eli stood firm. She's not here to harm anyone. She's running from harm. She could be a threat, the officer replied. Eli didn't move. The only threat is letting fear decide for us. They took his equipment, his signals, his satellite dish, but they couldn't take away his memory. Eli had learned how to read the skies without machines. That night, under the stars, he saw it just a flicker. A falling light. Kalira, he whispered. She was close. Kalira's ship entered Earth's orbit. It shook as gravity pulled harder. The ship wasn't built for landing on planets, but she didn't care. She had come too far. Eli's voice, from a saved recording, played again in her mind. Come home, Kalira. She smiled. She used the last of her power to guide the ship toward the location Eli had given. Trees, mountains, a quiet place. The ship groaned. Metal bent. Alarms rang. She held the controls steady. Fire surrounded the outside of the ship as it broke through Earth's sky. And then, crash. The forest shook as the ship hit the ground, sliding through trees and dirt. Finally, coming to a stop in a smoking field, animals ran, birds scattered. Eli was already there, watching from a hill nearby. He ran faster than he had in years. His legs hurt, but he didn't stop. Not now. When he reached the ship, it was still silent. Kalira, he shouted. No answer. He climbed onto the broken hull, pried open a hatch with his tools, and crawled inside. Smoke filled the air. Lights flickered. Then he saw her, lying on the floor, breathing barely. Her skin was pale blue, her hair like silver threads. Her eyes were closed. Eli knelt beside her. Hey, he whispered. You made it. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked at him, really looked. You're Eli, she said softly. Earth's son. He nodded, smiling. The girl who didn't belong? She gave a small smile. But I belong here. And then she passed out. Eli carried her out of the ship. Medical teams arrived later, but he made sure they treated her with care. The world now knew her name. Cameras. Pointed reporters shouted questions. People cried and cheered. The governments didn't know what to do. She was not a threat, but she was not like them either. Kalira awoke days later in a quiet hospital. She was weak, but alive. When she looked out the window and saw Earth's sky, she whispered, I'm finally free. And when Eli visited, she reached for his hand. I heard you, she said. And I never stopped talking, he replied. The world began to change. Some still feared her. Others saw her as a sign of hope, being from another world who had risked everything to be part of Earth, not to rule. It's not to fight, but to belong. She didn't ask for power. She didn't want control. All she wanted was to live, to feel, to be human not by blood, but by heart. Eli Shepherd sat alone in his workshop, deep in the forests of Oregon. The wind rustled through tall pine trees outside, but inside, everything was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. Old computers, tools, and wires covered every shelf. In the center of the room was his favorite device, a signal receiver he had built himself. It was connected to a satellite dish on the roof, scanning space for any sound, any message, anything strange. Eli wasn't a famous scientist. He wasn't even part of a big space agency anymore. Once long ago, he had been a military pilot. But after an accident damaged his spine and left his legs weak, he chose a quiet life. He didn't give up on the stars, though. They were the only place that still made him dream. He had been listening to the stars for years. Most nights brought nothing. But one evening, as the sky turned red and orange, something changed. A strange sound came through his receiver, a pattern, almost like music. Then, a voice, soft and careful, spoke in a language no human had ever used. But it wasn't just noise. It had rhythm, meaning, even emotion. Eli sat up straight. He quickly recorded everything, running the signal through translation software. It took hours. But finally, words began to appear on his screen. If anyone is listening, I am Kalira. I am not safe in my world. I am searching for another. I have found. Your stories, your music, your pain, your joy. And I think I belong with you. Eli's heart raced, listened again and again. Her voice was calm but full of feeling. She wasn't human, that was clear. But something in the way she spoke made Eli believe her. This wasn't just a recording. This was a real person, a real mind, out there in the dark, reaching for help. 4. The first time in his life, Eli felt he wasn't alone. The next day, Eli contacted some old friends at a space observatory. They were shocked by the signal. Soon, scientists from around the world got involved. The signal was real. It had come from deep space, too far for any known human satellite. And hidden in the signal were Earth images. Old films, music, radio. Shows Eli recognized some of them. Somehow, this Kalira had found one of Earth's ancient probes, the kind sent into space hundreds of years ago. With human culture on board, news of the alien message spread fast. The media called it the Kalira signal. Some people were excited, others were scared. Governments argued about what to do. Should they respond? Was it a trap or a gift? But Eli had already made his decision. He began sending simple messages back through the receiver. He used math first, then sound, then pictures.
Yes.
Days passed with no reply, until one night, just before dawn, her voice returned. "I hear you, Earth's son. I'm coming. Help me find you." Eli stared at the words, then looked up at the stars, his eyes wide with wonder. Over the next few weeks, Eli and Kalira exchanged more messages. Her ship was small and old, stolen from her homeworld, Avaris. She explained her story in pieces. On Avaris, everyone was born to follow the same rules, the same thoughts. But she had been different. She had asked questions. She had felt things strong. Feelings which were not allowed there. "I wasn't broken," she said, "just wrong for them. But your people, ... they feel everything. It's messy, loud, but it feels alive." Eli laughed when he read that. "That's Earth," he replied. "Loud and alive." Kalira was traveling fast, but space was huge and dangerous. Her ship didn't have the tools needed to survive for long. Eli began helping her. He studied her flight path, warned her of dangers, and guided her through small course changes. He couldn't fly anymore, but now he was piloting something much greater, a message of hope across the stars. They talked more each day. About small things, about big things, about what it meant to be free. Eli told her about Earthling. History of pain, progress, and love. Kalira shared memories of her lonely world, where art was banned and silence was praised. "You would hate it there," she said. "I'd probably break the rules on the first day," Eli joked. "Sometimes." He made her laugh. First, she didn't know how to laugh, but the more she listened to human songs, the more she understood joy and sadness and bravery. "I'm learning how to feel," she wrote once, "and you're my teacher." But not everyone on Earth wanted Kalira to come. Some feared she was dangerous. Some thought she was lying. Secret groups began tracking Eli's work. He received strange emails, warnings, and even visits from agents. One man, dressed in a black suit, told him, "Stop talking to the alien. You don't know what you're dealing with." Eli didn't listen. "She's not a threat," he said. "She's a mirror. We don't like what we see." He moved his equipment deeper into the forest, keeping everything secret. He didn't want to lose her, not now, not when she was so close. Kalira's messages became slower. Her ship was failing. Her energy was low. "I might not make it," she said one night. "Oh, there is too much silence out here." "You're not alone," Eli replied. "Keep listening. Follow my voice." He sent her a song. It was old, full of hope and courage. She didn't understand the words, but she felt them, and she kept flying. Then came the storm. Kalira's ship entered a field of space, debris, broken rocks, metal from old machines. She tried to steer, but her controls froze. Her messages became scattered and weak. "I'm hit. I can't." Then silence. Eli stared at the screen, waiting, his heart beating hard. Minutes passed, then hours. The forest around him was quiet, like it was holding its breath. Finally, a signal blinked on his monitor. Faint, weak, but it was her. "I'm alive, but I'm drifting. I need help." Eli made a choice, a bold one. He sent her his exact location. On Earth, a full map. full coordinates. If others found out, they might come for him. They might stop her. But he didn't care anymore. He sent one last message that night. "Come home, Kalira. Come to Earth. I'll be waiting." And then he stepped outside into the cold night air, looked up at the stars, and whispered, "You're almost here."